Hi guys, it's Davin here at Brewbitz.com. Now today I've brought you outside into the lovely Somerset countryside, and all around us we've got fields of barleys, we've got lovely hedgerows, we've got the birds singing, but right now I'm stood in a patch of stinging nettles. But why have I brought you outside? Well, this is the beginning of summer and it's elderflower season, and it's one of my favourite things to make is elderflower champagne, elderflower wine, and also, if I've got some elderflowers left over at the end, I'll also make some elderflower cordial. So, why have I brought you to this specific patch? Well, I thought I'd show you a couple of things that are not, and I repeat, not elderflowers. So, this little plant here has got some little white flowers and they're pointing upwards in a little kind of starry formation, and you'll also notice down here has got some ferny like leaves. This is cow parsley. This is not elderflower. Another plant I've got very close to it, and you usually find these very close together, this is hogweed, and you'll notice there's some bigger leaves here. Again though, we've got the same sort of arrangement with the flowers. This one isn't quite out yet, but you will get some really big white flowers in there. Again, not elderflower. But if I take you just over here, if James spins round, here we've got an elderflower tree. Now elderflower is a tree. It's from the elder, and let me just grab a snip of it here. There we go. And I'll bring it a bit closer. So here we've got an actual elderflower tree. You can see it's got a branch and it's got big leaves, and sometimes you'll see, instead of it being in a tree formation like this, you'll see it more in a bush in the hedgerow, and that's where the farmers have been trimming it down and keeping it nice and trim. So sometimes you'll see it in the hedgerow. So what you're looking for is you're looking for some lovely big bunches of flowers like this, and we're looking for some nice big leaves like this. Once you found it, you're ready to pick your elderflowers. So get out there hunting. Ideally you don't want to go picking by roads, because all of the pollution that the roads chuck up and the dust and the dirt, that will contaminate what we could potentially do with making a fantastic wine. So we're going to go down into our hedgerows and we're going to try and find some. Now ideally what we don't want to do is we don't want to pick ones that are down at our hip and knee level, because there are animals in the countryside and they like to mark their territory. And how do they mark their territory? Well, they mark it by wee. So anything above hip height, fine to use. Another little tip for picking them is we also want to give them a sniff, because you're looking for that really elderflowery flavour, that really elderflowery aroma. Some elderflowers, when you go to pick them, they can smell a little bit like BO, a little bit like gone off wee. This doesn't, and so what you want to do, you might find a bush like this, and you might, when you're picking them, you really want to smell each one, because that one might smell of wee and that one doesn't. You can never tell, so give it a good sniff before you pick each one. Now we don't want to take too many, we want about a carrier bag full of this, and the way we're going to do it, I'll show you here a second, James. Let me get my secateurs out. Ideally it's best to use a pair of secateurs, and we're going to cut it at about that position, okay? And that's going to leave us the branch, that's going to leave us our elderflower bunch, and we're going to put that in a bag. However, we're going to want to leave some on our tree, because a little bit later on in the year, any elderflowers that you've left will be pollinated and will turn into elderberries, and elderberries make a fantastic red wine. So get out in the countryside, find an elderflower tree, give it a good sniff, and pick about a bag full of, carrier bag full that is, of elderflower bunches. And then we'll see you back in my kitchen. We're now back in my kitchen after a lovely evening stroll in the sun, picking some bags of elderflower. And I've got quite a lot of elderflowers here, and that's going to keep me going. I'm going to be able to make quite a lot of elderflower wine, champagne, and I'm sure I'm going to have some left over with some cordial. But right now I'm going to show you how to make elderflower wine. So there's a couple of things you're going to need to go to the supermarket and get. You're going to need a couple of lemons. You're going to need some sugar and some raisins, and a couple of other things you're going to need is you're going to need to get yourself a sachet of all-purpose white wine yeast, some wine tanning. Now if you haven't find any wine tanning or you haven't got any, then we can use some stewed tea. Yes, T as in tea. And also we're going to need to have some yeast nutrient. Right, once you've got all of those, we're ready to get going. What you may not know about the elder tree is that every other part, apart from the flowers and the berries, are poisonous and will actually make you quite ill. So what I like to do, you can see this, come on in James and have a quick look at this. Most of the flowers are on quite big green stalks. Now what I like to do is I prefer to get a pair of scissors and just snip off the tops. So you're left with the big green stalks and as little of the stalk goes into making your wine as possible. This way, first of all, you get a lot more flavour in your wine, and secondly, you got a lot less stalky flavour, and it makes for a lot better elderflower wine. And what we're looking to do, and you see as I'm pressing it down, I'm looking to basically get a pint of petals. So we're after a pint of petals, lightly pressed down, and it should bounce back and we should get a pint full. Now these need to go into a sterilised bucket and pour it in like that, simple as that. What we need to do now is we need to go and take one of our lemons and we need to grate the outside of the lemon off. Now what we don't want to do is we want to take the yellow part off, but we want to leave any white stuff. We don't want that because that adds a bitterness to it that we don't want. So grate in the rind of 2 whole lemons. So the next thing we need to add to the bucket are our ½ pound of raisins, and in they go. So we've also got 3 pounds of sugar that needs to go into our bucket. So I know it sounds a lot. Make sure it's all in. There we go. And now we need to take our kettle and we need to put it on the boil. And we need 8 pints of boiling water. So in goes the first of my 8 pints of boiling water. That's 3. I'm possibly going to get 4 out of her if I'm lucky. I am, that's 4. Oh wow, the smell that's coming off of here is amazing. Right, needs to go back on for another 4 pints. Right, so this is pint number 7. And lastly, pint number 8. Okay, so that's our 8 pints into our bucket. Get your camera in there, James, and have a good old look. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring my spoon in and I'm going to start stirring it. Because we need to get all of that sugar that we poured in earlier. We need to dissolve all that sugar. And make sure that it's fully incorporated. Oh wow, the lemon rind, the elderflowers, the raisins, that's all coming together now and making a fantastic aroma. If only there was smell-o-vision, you would be loving this. The only way for you to experience this, guys, is to make it yourselves. Simple as that. So now we need to take a big knife, we need to take our lemons, slice them in half, and get as much juice out of them as we can. So now we've squeezed our lemons, we need to add our lemon juice into the bucket. And it goes, and again we need to give it a stir. The next thing we need to add is some tannin. And here I've actually got some straightforward tannin, and I'm going to be using this. This is just a powder. Now, if you're using tannin like this, do not get it on anything. You'll see it's a lovely kind of reddish powder, and all we're going to do is we're going to sprinkle in a teaspoon. Simple as that. Don't get it on anything at all. Now, if you can't find any tanning, then what you need to do is you need to make up a cup of tea. Back to me, James. A simple cup of strong tea. And then once that's had a chance to cool down slightly, give it a really good chance to stew, really good stew tea, and pour that in. But here I'm using tannin. And so once I've added it in, I'm just going to give it a good stir. Now this is going to add a little bit of extra feel in the mouth, a little bit of extra texture in the mouth when you're drinking it. Right, so that's in now. What did I do with my lid? I'm coming back. Hello. And we're going to take our lid. We're going to pop our lid on. And we need to put this somewhere cool now because we need to let it cool down to 20 degrees. So it needs to go somewhere nice and cool so it can cool down 20 degrees we're looking at. It's taken a few hours for our elderflower wine to cool down to the right temperature for us to add the yeast. But before I'm going to add the yeast, I need to add some nutrients because elderflowers don't have a huge amount of nutrients in them. So we need to give the yeast a little bit of extra vitamins if you'd like to help us out. So here I'm using some vitamin B1 tablets. And all I'm going to do is put it between 2 teaspoons, press together. And what you do is squiggle them a bit, it turns to a powder. And literally just pop that in and give it a quick stir around. And you can see now that all our elderflowers are starting to change. The colours coming out of them, the colours coming out of the raisins we've added in, and the smell is amazing. So, what I've got here, back to me James, is I've got a sachet of all-purpose white wine yeast, and this I'm just going to simply tear open, nice and gently, so you don't lose any of it, and I'm going to sprinkle this on the top. There we go, and give it a gentle stir in to mix it in. Okay, just like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the top on. We're just going to press down 2 sides. And this is going to go in my warm cupboard at 20 degrees C for the next week, but I'm going to stir it every single day for the next 4 days. So it goes into a warm cupboard now for 7 days, and we're going to stir it every single day for the first 4 days. Come on in James, have a look at this, get your camera down in here, and you'll see that all the raisins have all swelled up, and all the elderflowers have lost all their colour, and the wine has taken on a really nice colour. Well, it's now time for us to transfer this and get rid of all the elderflowers, all of the raisins out of it. And so down here, I've got myself a bucket, and I've prepared it with a muslin bag. And all I'm going to do is really simply and easily pour this in, nice and gentle. And you'll notice I've put some pegs around the outside. That'll keep it all nice and sturdy and prevent the bag falling in. There we go. All empty. Right, so I'm going to leave that to drain for a couple of minutes to make sure I've got everything I'm in. In the meantime, I'm just going to get rid of this bucket and give it a quick clean out. So now it's had a little bit of time to drain. What we're going to do is just simply unpeg it. You'll see it instantly starts wanting to come away. Right, so no need to, you can give it a quick squeeze if you want, and make sure you've got all of that lovely juice out that you possibly can. There we go. Right, now then, behind here I have got myself a sterilised Demi-John, and I've got myself a sterilised funnel. And all I'm going to do now is nice and gently pour my wine in. The smell that's actually coming off of here is fantastic. The elderflowers, the raisins, the lemon, you're getting hints of all of it coming through. Absolutely fantastic. Right, oh, almost perfect. Right, so what I've done, let me just bring it back up here so we're all together, is I've brought it up to just the bottom of our bung here. Now the reason why, back to me James, the reason why we've taken it out of our bucket and now transferred it to our demijohn and not starting it in the demijohn is because initially when the fermentation starts it's very vigorous, and of course we've got all those elderflowers in there as well as the raisins, and it's a bit too much for the demijohn to take. Now when it gets down to this stage the fermentation's slowing right down and not so much carbon dioxide being given off, so we want to protect it. So to protect it, what we're going to be using is we're going to be using a airlock here, and in the airlock I'm going to put a small amount of sodium metabisulfate solution, and then we're going to pop it in the top like so. Then we're going to leave it again in our warm place until we see no more bubbles coming through the airlock. Simple as that. Should hopefully be about a week to another 2 weeks. So we'll see you then. My elderflower wine has been sat in my warm cupboard now for about the last month. It's been bubbling away quite vigorously, and it's slowed down, I noticed, over the last week. So 3 days ago I started taking some readings with my hydrometer, and it stayed constant at exactly 1. So I now know it's time to rack off, and that basically will allow us to clear the wine and then get it ready for bottling. Now, I'm not going to show you how to rack this off because we've already got a video showing you how to do that, and there'll be a link coming at the bottom which will show you how to do that. And then, once it's racked off, that will allow it to clear. Once it's clear, in a few weeks' time, you'll then be able to bottle it. Once you've bottled it, 6 months later, you'll be enjoying a fantastic, refreshing wine. Now, okay, that's going to be winter. If you can hold on till next summer and just hide it away in a dark cupboard somewhere, pop a bottle open or pop a bottle in the fridge next summer, let it get nice and cold, pop it open, and you will enjoy a really, really nice glass of elderflower wine on a hot summer's day. Happy drinking!